fellow parents. How are you today? I hope you're having a blast with your young ones. Well, I'm sure you're also overwhelmed. And one of the things that overwhelms most parents is their children's nutrition and their diet and their food. In fact, it drives mothers a little bit crazy, if not a lot crazy. Well, on today's program, we have someone very special, qualified to answer all your questions that need some sensible, common sense answers. She's a celebrity in every which way. Rujita Divekar joins me, and of course, all that I can say is I'm supremely delighted to have you give us some valuable advice.
Oh, no, I'm delighted to be on your show, Manisha. Thank you for having me here.
This is the book. I've read it twice over, underlined it, and I think the one line right in the beginning which caught my attention was how much we torture our children over food and then also get tortured in return.
Yeah, true.
Why are we doing that? It wasn't like that when we were growing up. Our parents, I don't think, went through so much of trouble.
You know, one of the reasons why our parents didn't go through so much trouble is not because we were better children, but they were better parents, I think. You know, that they didn't
My mom would be so happy to hear that.
They didn't use words like carbohydrate, protein and fat on the dining table. Now we use that all the time, and in effect what we do is that we really disconnect our children from the food that they are eating. And once you're disconnected with something is where all the drama begins, you know. So I really think that's the main problem. We have to learn to call food with its correct name, you know. Dal chawal is dal chawal, ghee is ghee, Gond ka laddu is Gond ka laddu, Rajgira chikki is Rajgira chikki. It's not a Rajgira biscuit. So, you know, if we just do like these basic things, our children will be able to find joy in eating.
So you use a word which is again very curious and so funny, Google Rani. Forget all the wisdom of your grandmother and Google everything, because we want our children to grow up as global citizens and introduce them to world cuisine, and of course then, you know, break down food for not the nutrients but carbohydrates, protein, as you said. What are we doing wrong? Why is our generation raising such picky, fussy eaters?
I think one of the things is because we have become increasingly more global, you know, the stage of economic development that we are at. We have access to all kinds of food, you know, Korean and Mediterranean and Italian and, you know, what, I mean, every single thing. And in this whole mad rush of introducing them to this array of world cuisine, we forget to introduce them to their own local traditional cuisine, their own regional cuisine. And when we do that, what we do is that we rob them of not just nutrients but also with a sense of connect, a sense of belonging. You know, when people travel abroad, they really look forward to coming back home and having dal khichdi or just dal rice, or you know, just maybe roti sabzi, because then only then do they feel like, that's when you feel like you're back home. Now you're back home, now you're settled. And if we don't give our children this food, then they never really feel settled, which is why they're constantly fussy and picky and cranky. And another thing that parents have stopped doing these days is saying no. You know, we don't say, we don't say no to our children. We have to realize that we are raising kids, we aren't raising consumers. Our job is not to say certainly ma'am, certainly sir, you know, to every demand that is placed. Our children are going to make demands because they don't know anything better while they're growing up. They also have the food industry, the junk food industry going at them from every area, you know, so they are at a very vulnerable stage. They are going to ask for things which are not good for them. It's our job to say no the first time and every single time.
Yeah, and it can't be like, okay, I'll allow it once a week just because, you know, it's junk food. You just have to put your foot down on anything which is unhealthy and out of a packet. That, I think, has been a big thing to take from your book.
Yes, you know, in fact, last evening I was with, I was at this event, and then later one of the teachers who teaches EVS came to me and she said, you know, if we actually began to eat more locally, seasonally, traditionally, we would also be able to resolve the garbage problem, because most of this garbage problem comes because we eat so much out of packets. I mean, everyone is eating a biscuit a day. Everyone seems to be eating a chocolate every 2 days. Everyone's going to have a cola, once a week. And where is all this plastic going to go? If we do fill our earth with so much plastic, eventually we will make life impossible on it.
And you use a word for it. You call it colonization. Food colonization, isn't it? I mean, well, all of this,
I mean, we are supposed to be colonized, and this is the new age colonization, in terms of there is data which is colonizing us, there is food which is colonizing us. So yeah, we are slaves, we are subjects, we just don't know it yet.
Yeah, I also find that mothers get extremely upset and, overwrought if their children don't eat.
Yeah.
And is it particular with Indian mothers? Because I find Indian moms just go overboard. Agar khana nahi khaya bachche ne, to their entire day is gone. Either my child is too thin or my child is too fat. We are just never happy with our children's
I think we are probably never just happy with ourselves, as mothers, and this is a global problem. It just gets amplified with Indian moms, and that is because we have very unequal kitchens. We don't have fathers who work in the kitchens.
Absolutely.
We don't have men who have yet learned that it's important to contribute at home, that it's their job also to serve, source, prepare and eat with the kids. So the whole responsibility lies with the mother. And you can never do enough when it is just your sole responsibility. Or even when you do enough, you don't really go back, you don't really get to bed feeling that, okay, I've done everything that I could. Sometimes a child may naturally not be hungry for something, so just let the child be. B, ensure that you have a partner who knows that he has to be doing his bit in the home and kitchen, so that you can relax too, because khushi pe aapka bhi haq hai.
So, I know.
And the third thing that we have to know as mothers is that it is the kids who choose their parents, so we are exactly the mother that our child needs. We don't need to turn into something else. And if random people have an opinion that my child is too fat or too thin, they should just have that opinion. It's a free country, but we shouldn't bog ourselves down because of it.
And I think mothers are also, or parents in fact, are getting quite overwrought by just this perfect body image of their children, and they transfer their own insecurities or body images onto their child. The word F, I mean, we call it the fat word, should literally be banned from any household.
Yes, you're right about that, Manisha. I mean, saying things to kids about them either being too fat or too thin just makes them feel so discriminated. And it isn't right, growing up with these feelings of inadequacies, because on the one hand, there is excess of wealth in a way, or excess of choices. On the other hand, there is this discrimination for your body size. It can be quite harmful for a growing up child.
Very quickly now, you take us back to traditional foods in this book, and all of us have grown up with it. I mean, laddus was the go-to snack because it was a besan laddu, a dal laddu and sattu, and all of these things just nourished us so well. In today's modern life, it's hard to also get all of these things together.
Right.
So that's been a little bit of a criticism from some of the parents who have read this book, that look, it's a bit of an idealistic world. Is it?
No, I don't think so. I just feel that it needs to be the world that we raise our children in, and all of these things, whether it's besan, whether it is sattu, whether it is ghee, these are easily accessible. We may just need to shop at places which are different from where we are currently shopping, because where we are currently shopping, it's virgin olive oil and avocados and quinoa, which is easily accessible. So if we just make that switch and even patronize small traders, small farmers, then getting the right ingredients is going to be equally easy.
And how difficult is it to make dal chawal or lemon rice? Isn't it? And some of the snacks that you speak about, roti, ghee and sugar, I mean, this is something that they'll say, oh my God, these are just all empty calories. But you say, give it to them. It's fulfilling and children will love it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, tomorrow if someone's having like a chocolate milkshake, we don't bat an eyelid. If someone's having like a malted powder mix karke milk, we feel, oh, it's all quite healthy, because there are ads which are telling you which are healthy, that this is healthy or this is aspirational. But we don't really see roti jaggery ghee or roti ghee shakkar as aspirational. There is no ad. Our grandmother never came out of the kitchen dancing and selling it to us as something which is, you know, worthy of aspiring for. So, you know, we need to be, as parents, as grown-up people, as adults, we should be able to tell the difference between projection and reality.
And if we eat a little bit of ghee rice, or
should.
a ghee roti or jaggery roti, it's fine, you know.
more than
the
fine.
kids will also start enjoying it and say,
It's more than fine. It's more than fine. The time when we should actually be raising our antennas is, you know, when we say like, why our kids are eating so many cupcakes. Our neighborhoods are full of like cupcakes and you know, these pastry shops and God knows what, and all our traditional native food is going off. So
have to go back to the basics. If I were to break, you know, age groups, you have done that in your book, and just get some very quick nutrition advice. So 0 to 2, that's your first bracket, right?
Yeah.
So what would your biggest advice be?
My biggest advice would be that, you know, don't use the milk bottle, instead use the bondla, because it is something which is even good for their jaws, it is good for their bacteria, and it teaches a child how to drink milk. So if you're a feeding mom, it actually makes it easier
to
wean off, and while you're feeding also teaches them how to latch on and suckle and stuff like that. So stay away from plastic, because you know, it's this whole plastic nipple going inside your mouth all the time. So the bondla is
freely and easily available
everywhere, but again,
right.
you have to shop differently.
Good one. And interesting observation you make, that you know, when after the child is weaning off from you, shift to cow milk, and also shift to, like, you know, rice kanji, the rice kheer.
Yes.
All right, so interesting tidbits there. But next age group, let's tackle the 2 to 8. That's
okay, so 2 to 8 and stuff would be, again, getting them to eat more local fruits, feeding them a banana, getting them to eat roti, jaggery and ghee, or rice by themselves, you know, really teaching them to be a little bit more on their own. And also, this is the age group from when you have to start saying no to all the chocolates, colas and caffeine products.
Absolutely.
You know. Yeah.
Teenage now, that's my problem. So I want some advice. 13 and 16, and honestly, their food choices, we could say a lot of no to them till they hit their teenage. After that, there are so many multiple battles we are fighting. Their hormones are raging. They don't want to listen to you. They're you know, in their minds adults, but not really adults to make the right choices. And food becomes a big battle. I mean, they simply don't want to hear or listen to you. How do we handle it? Even healthy eating children switch to
because
poor
that's
choices.
That's the pressure, and that's the downside of being a teenager. You know, I always feel that being a teenager has always been tough, but in 2019, I think it's probably the toughest, you know, than what it has been even in 2005 or 6. So in a way, I think we got away easy. Today you have like sleepovers, you have all these big coffee chains which are, you know, where kids go,
and
even
it's cool
for
to go there.
For their tuition classes and stuff. For us, like while we were growing up, even if you did have a tea or coffee outside, this was the size, you know, that was available. Today, this is the basic size. So it's like just wiring our kids to consume so much more than what they need at any point of time. I think there are 2 ways of dealing with this, because teenagers tend to be very sensitive to both these instructions. Tell them to make more ecologically sensitive choices, you know, so teach them to live within their ecological means. And that way it means, like, you know, opening fewer plastic packets, not using as many plastic straws, you know, not going for things which come in plastic cups. And that immediately helps them make more
Better
intelligent choices. And the other thing is also to curtail their junk food choices economically. So to tell them that, you know, you're only going to get maybe 50 rupees or 70 rupees that you can spend
In a week?
per week
Yeah, absolutely.
on this.
So 10 rupees maximum once in each packet.
Yeah. And once we do that, you know, it will make it easier for our children to make better choices. With that, we also need to, because that's what I try to do with this book, is raise awareness about the fact that our government policies don't seem to do enough to protect this vulnerable section from making the wrong choices. Like in other countries, it's illegal to sell toys with junk food products, or, you know, it's illegal to have ads on TV all the time which are talking about, you know, which are just showcasing junk food. But we have no such regulation. We will have you know, a big sporting event like IPL coming up, and, you know, Cola is one of the big sponsors, so again, no regulation in there. So, you know, we need to have at least a few things in place so that when our teenagers are watching a sporting event, they're not thinking, okay, you drink a cola and you hit like this, you know, or you look like this, because that's not what the athletes are eating or drinking. So
much tighter norms. I would agree with you. Much tighter norms, even on advertising, that we need to have. Well, like you said in your book, that look at your child's nutrition as a 50-year investment, and I think that will resonate with our CNBC-TV18.com audience. It is the most important investment that you make in raising them as healthy adults who will make independent, healthy choices.
Absolutely, and which will then allow them to make a lot of wealth.
I'm going to go back to this book, right? In our first episode, we spoke about do's and don'ts. Now I'm going to talk about something that you equally strongly feel and speak about as assimilation of nutrition for our children, which is sports. Why is it so important?
See, human beings are meant to be active. You know, the one thing that we are not meant to do or designed to do is what you and I are doing right now, sit on the chair.
Next time we'll do a walkabout around India Gate.
But, you know, this is what we tend to do most of our life, and this is also what our children tend to do all the time, which is why you now see children as young as 12 and 13 having back problems and knee problems and headaches and migraines and stuff. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're just not as mobile as they should be. Every time you play a sport, you actually make more butyrate producing bacteria. You know, it even influences the kind of gut bacteria that you have. And if you have the right kind of bacteria, you will have lesser incidences of allergies, intolerances, and frequent illnesses that you see so rampant these days.
In developed countries, my God.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, in India, I feel you go to any big school and you have some kind of intolerance, or, you know, kids having allergies or falling sick frequently. And that is also linked to their gut bacteria, to the diversity and the strength of their gut bacteria. And the one game changer is going to be how active we have them. So I often say this to parents, that even if the homework is incomplete, even if it means bunking a tuition class, what is worth doing is let go of all of these things, but ensure that your kids have 90 minutes every single day of free play. You know,
you said 60 to 90 minutes. I mean,
at least.
I'm amazed that you've said it. In fact, what caught my eye, I'm obsessive about sports as well, and I must thank my husband for it, because for both our children he made it non-negotiable.
Nice.
And they're both very sporty. Having said that, we always believed that sports was essentially for their, you know, eye-hand coordination. It also taught them team spirit, it taught them how to lose and bounce back.
Correct.
But your book gave me a very different insight. You actually say that sports is needed to assimilate nutrients, the protein and the calcium. Is it really that, that big a deal?
Absolutely, it is. I mean, you know, if you had a very sporty kid who just had a fracture which made like the arm immobile, and then when you let go of, when you remove the cast, you'll actually be able to see that the hand on which you had the cast is not as toned or muscular as the other hand which you've been using in these weeks. So without activity, you cannot have a child either make the optimum gains in their bone mineral density or even in their protein synthesis. I mean, so many times we obsess about our children having adequate protein and protein and protein, but if you just have them playing, their bodies will be able to make protein from all the food that they are eating.
So that's it. Absolutely critical. The other thing which I also read and I really enjoyed was how family holidays are supposed to be. I mean, don't children really learn from us? So there are parents I've seen who say, why don't you go out and play? And they're just sitting and, relaxing, and they're not active themselves. So it's really important to teach by example, isn't it?
Yes, and I really think, especially for parents who have teenage children, is to really go out with them and just stay active, either snorkeling or diving or cycling or trekking.
Trekking, your favorite hobby.
My favorite is trekking, because I think it is something that everyone can participate in, and you don't really need very high levels of fitness. It gives you the time to unwind and relax, and also keeps you active at the same time. So, there are very few activities which allow you to do that. Trekking is one of those. So I think trekking with a child or trekking with a teenager is wonderful, because that's when they actually open up. And I think so many times with teenagers, you worry that they maybe don't think too highly of you.
Oh, absolutely. You can't change that opinion. I mean, they're embarrassed by parents. We may think we are cool, but they're perpetually embarrassed.
For them, it's like, oh no, mom, So, but once you have a mom who's trekking, or you have a dad who's trekking, and you see them doing as well as you do, I think they start respecting you a little more. They see you as someone that they can gel with, as someone who understands them, because that's the cool parent.
Go to get your children to be active is that you have to be very active.
Yeah,
otherwise they're not going to get out there and play.
You can't raise them in an inactive environment and expect them to be very active and sporty. That's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. The other thing which resonated with me, and of course also because real estate is my beat, is where you make that point where you say, you know what, opt for a smaller house but a larger surrounding open space area, right?
Yes.
And that's a fantastic tip. It's a simple tip, but as our cities are getting denser, we are sacrificing open public spaces where our children can play. So get almost obsessive about that fact that, we will find a living area where our children have a lot of open space to play.
I think so, yes, because also more open spaces would mean better protection from pollution, because then you will have trees which are, going to guard you against most things which shouldn't be reaching your lungs. So open spaces are critical. I do feel that we much rather live in a smaller place but with access to large playgrounds. It's a choice, I think, which would turn out to be a very, very good investment in terms of money, because you may land up spending probably just as much as you would for a big house in another area as compared to a small house in an area with more open space, but you will save more money on medicines, you will save more money on non-communicable diseases, and so in that way you will get more bang for the buck,
Interesting, isn't it? And you again point that out in your book. I mean, for me, it's a Bible, but
thank you.
Where you say that we have a curious problem at the hands of our country. It's a larger thing that policymakers need to look at, that we have the world's most number of malnourished children. And we also have the second highest number of obese children. How did we get there? I mean, we must be doing something seriously wrong here.
Yeah, I think, we get there with with policy decisions which are not very healthy. They may be profitable, but they're not very healthy. So, for example, we have subsidies for palm tree plantation, a non-native which you plant, but you can make oil out of it, and that oil is then in all the junk food that you produce. We had like a food industry mela almost, inviting all junk food companies to come set up shop here and stuff. But what we often don't understand is that the same things that cause malnourishment are responsible for causing obesity. So it is two sides of the same coin. So it's not like one thing made you fat and the other thing made you malnourished. It's the exact same thing. Yeah, lack of access to nutritious food is what gives you both these extremes. Lack of access to open free spaces, or equal opportunities for girls to be active is also what gives you both these extremes. And lack of awareness and lack of value for indigenous foods is also what gives you both these extremes. So I do think that also as people, because now it's 2019 and we'll have elections and stuff, that as people we can have, because in a democracy people are a part of the government, that we should vote for politicians who care about our health. We should really go out there and vote for the right issues, because health is something which, and children's health is something which can unite us across all lines,
absolutely,
across every divide, and we should be voting for that versus anything else.
You talked about girls, and this is one thing that I have noticed, that around puberty, girls tend to just fall off the radar when it comes to sports. And I really want a strong message on that front. And then they go through this painful periods. And I can say that with confidence. And my daughter is very sporty, and for her it's a much easier journey through puberty and post that.
Yes. So see, our hormones are also in a much better state of balance when we are active, and this just gets much more obvious in terms of in a girl's body, but it's also just as relevant in a boy's body, that they both need extremely well balanced state of hormones, and the only way to get there is A, sports, and B, regulated bedtime. That is something that we need to work on. But while on sports, in India you will see this, that if you ever see a well or if you see a public tap, it's just girls. You see any open ground, it's boys. So where are our girls? We can't be missing out on the girls' rights to open free places. And I feel if it requires a reservation of playgrounds,
let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that, at least for the next 5 years or 10 years. And it may not be an immediate change. Maybe it will take a few months till girls actually come out and start playing, but it's something which is worth doing. Even if you look at team sports, in which India is, Indian girls in single sports tend to do well.
Very well.
Wherever there is family backing them. But wherever you need in a girls team, other than cricket, which has like a decent infrastructure, we are not really doing as well as we can. We are not doing any justice to our girls' potential, and we need to be
to inculcate that and to address it. Absolutely.
So we have to teach our girls to go out there, and we have to tell them that you have the right on open spaces. We have to tell our boys that it's their responsibility to include girls in the games that they're playing.
And make the area safe for them.
Absolutely. So we have to teach our boys inclusivity, because otherwise they're just like buffered from this whole idea of inclusivity. That's what patriarchy does. If there is this much space, I'll grab it all.
Absolutely. I have the first right. The girls can play in a corner, but
or not play, just stand there and watch, which is what so many girls do at puberty. They just walk around, they don't play.
Rujita, I am just going to deep dive into the truth versus hype or myths, whatever you call it, right? So the first one, rice. Most parents believe if my child is having a meal of rice, it's empty carbs and starch and nothing else.
Well, rice is important to help them make the right bacteria. It is a prebiotic food for the probiotic which lives within. So rice is in fact a non-negotiable for a growing up child. So rice along with the dal or the dahi or the kadhi or the rajma or the chana has to be on your child's plate.
Okay. You talk about the dal and the rajma and the chanas. This is the protein aspect of a vegetarian meal, but the parents today, and I must say that even I worry about the fact that vegetarian diets don't have enough protein. So let's supplement it with eggs and maybe even fish and chicken. Is it needed? So well, the protein myth.
Well, it is not needed. Even in my book, I write about Smriti Mandhana. She's a cricketer who's known for all the big shots and the sixes outside of the ground, and she's a vegetarian, so you don't really need to eat meat to get protein or to get strength. What you need is to keep your children active and have them sleep on time and eat meals on time. So those are the three things that you need to do, and then they'll make all the protein that they need to make. And all that your meals need to be is local, seasonal and traditional, and not really rich in protein and high on omega-3 and low on carbohydrate.
So give them tofu and soya milk, which is absolutely not needed. It comes out of a package.
Totally not needed. Totally not.
Third myth, calcium. My God, if my child is not having milk, it's a meltdown moment in the morning in so many households. मेरे बच्चे ने दूध नहीं पिया तो अभी कैल्शियम कैसे मिलेगा?
Correct. बाकी सारे sources से मिलेगा. You know, it's like there is tilchki, which is a good source of calcium. There is ragi, which is good source of calcium. There is gond laddu, which is also a good source of calcium. But finally, for your body to assimilate calcium, you need a whole lot of activity. So, you know, when your child is running around and you say things like, "Arey bachche gir jaoge," that is what is coming in the way of calcium absorption. So instead of you turn into a parent who starts saying things like, इतना तेज दौड़ो के गिरो, so then you know it will ensure that they're storing the right amount of calcium.
So all the traditional food, the combinations which are there in every cuisine have enough calcium.
More than required.
You know, go ballistic about protein and calcium.
No. But that's what the food industry wants you to do. Constantly feel inadequate about what is coming from your farms and being cooked in the kitchen, because only then will you buy their products. Otherwise, you're not going to be buying anything.
Yeah. Multivitamins. I want you to give me your opinion on that myth. If my child is not having multivitamins, deficiency ho jayegi.
No. See, a good diet, at least 60 to 90 minutes of exercise every day, and sleeping on time, and having a household which is not stressed out, you know, where like a good nurturing parenting, there is no replacement to these four things. And in the absence of these four things, even if you pop them with as many vitamins or give them injections of vitamins and minerals, it is not going to help them assimilate that. So a vitamin pill is not a replacement to real things that matter.
Nurturing. That's what you said. For good nurturing environment.
Good nurturing environment.
Gluten become the biggest enemy now. Suddenly, what is this whole fad about not gluten? And it's okay as an adult if you want to do it, you're in your 40s, but do children need to be kept away from gluten?
Well, I just feel that whether you're an adult or a child, as long as you see gluten in the donuts and the pizzas and the, you know, cupcakes,
avoid it.
Yeah, avoid it. Very happy. But, you know, if you start seeing it in the khada prasad, in the paratha and the roti, then there is a problem. So what we need to do is we need to go back to buying gehu and then, you know, making it into, like, you have to piso it in a chakki.
Every colony even today has a local chakki.
Exactly, yeah. So we should not be buying packets which are saying घर पे बने हुए आटे जैसा गेहूं, but like we should actually be doing those processes, because we are still at a point where we have access to these rich methods of processing gehu into atta. So we should just use that, and then when we are kneading our dough, do it like
so
the way our
parathas are not the enemy.
Oh, not at all. They are not. You know, misinformation is.
All right, final. The latest fad, and this is for the parents because your book says, and for parents too, intermittent fasting has become this huge fad that, you know, आप 14 घंटे खाली पेट रहो, 16 घंटे खाली पेट रहो, या 2 days in a week you don't eat or go down in your calories, and you'll be fit and fine and your body will be rid of all the toxins. What's your view?
My view is that, you know, every 5 years there is something new that you should be doing to lose weight. And even 5 years later,
weight loss, tamasha.
You're going to fall for it, because whatever we are doing right now is not going to work. But if you look at the bottom line of the weight loss industry is always deprivation. As long as human beings are depriving themselves of something, they feel that they're going to lose weight, but obviously no one loses weight doing that. And you know, about this whole intermittent fasting thing, I often feel that, you know, even as adults we need to look at sustainability. Can I sustain on this for the next 5 years and 10 years and stuff? And I often give this example of you know, people who join as young kids in this whole media industry, that when you join as 21, 22, you're in good shape. You work in the media, you barely have the time to eat, you max manage to eat 2 times in the day, and look at you 5 years later and what happens to your health. So obviously, even if it may work for you for the first month, work as in just helps you lose weight for the first 1 month or 2 months, you know, later it is going to give you obesity, sickness and stuff, because it isn't sustainable. That's one aspect of it. The second more critical aspect is while you're still at it and you are hungry and there is no glucose supply to your brain and you're doing a stressful job like parenting, you know, you are going to be so stressed out that, you know, you won't be able to negotiate with the child. You won't be able to say no.
In a calm, collected manner, you'll be like blowing your fuse every, you know, 20 minutes. So yeah.
Totally. And I think
for parents, staying hungry is even scarier than for a child to stay hungry.
Absolutely, because, you know, then the children are at the receiving end. You've not eaten anything, so you are just hyper, and you think they are the ones who are making you hyper, but your starvation is making you hyper.
So, all right, do whatever is only sustainable for the long term. Thank you for breaking or busting some of these myths for us, Srijata Divekar. All the very best.
Thank you.
Keep giving us a lot of good advice through your Instagram, where you have like what, almost 4 million followers. Fabulous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, and a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.